My dad's joining us tonight. Dad, how's it going?
I'm loving hearing this song again, I got to tell you.
Right? I know. I wish we had to do this. Facebook Live just stopped on me. So in the Facebook Live room, I apologize. There was some glitch where it just stopped randomly. But we are finally back in studio. We have gotten over the hiatus.
It's great to be back.
We haven't been on, and I think it's almost 3 months. I think it's 2.5.
2.5.
I think so.
Strong 2.5, yeah.
So we took a little hiatus, obviously, because everything that's been going on. Wanted to be safe. We did some shows from Facebook Live, which those were interesting, from your house.
You know what? I look back at those shows, especially the first one. You know what? I didn't smile nearly enough. It was like it was a chore.
You would have
and
broke
for
the
me,
camera.
cooking is fun.
Well, we're not going to go there. So we're back in the studio from a long hiatus. Lots have changed. A lot of things have happened. I am now a father. I have a child.
Yes, you are.
If you watch on Facebook Live, you've met him. You've seen him in action. He's maybe listening right now. Maybe he'll recognize my voice. I don't know. It's kind of weird. But we have a very special show ahead of you. We don't have a guest in the studio, but we have a guest via Skype. And a very special guest on the show, a dear friend, loyal listener of the show, and a great author, Mr. Dan Shisney. Dan, you there with us?
I am. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. It sounds great.
Hey, Dan.
Hey, Darryl. How's it going, man?
Excellent. Great to hear you, and we're missing you.
I miss you too.
Okay, take it easy, guys.
I've been watching your cooking shows though.
Well, I try to make it as enjoyable as possible, but I reflected on the two shows that I did, and I didn't smile enough. So, it looked like I was in pain sometimes, but but I really love cooking. I want that to come across. So when we do it again, it's going to be way better.
Of course. Well, you need some theme music and
absolutely.
We got to work on that. We already have a caller, Dan. I don't know. You've hyped this show up a lot, so let's see who this is. Let's see who's
we
on
got
the
a call
phone.
already?
Already, yeah.
All right.
Thanks for calling the Weekly Dion. Who's this? Oh, they decided they didn't want to call. I lied.
Come on, people.
I lied.
We're trying to outdo the John Clayton audience here. Come on.
Absolutely.
You're talking some trash on Facebook.
Yeah.
I just want to put that out there.
Listen, me and John, we have an understanding.
And what would that understanding be?
He and I, that a little competition is good for the soul.
Absolutely. No doubt about it.
And John has been on your show, what, 16, 17 times?
Dan, don't be jealous. You can get there eventually one day. One day, maybe you'll get there.
I'm
We'll
working
get there.
hard at it.
I think we have another caller, so let's see who this is. Thanks for calling the Weekly Dion. Who's this?
All right.
I'm playing this either.
I don't care who this is. This is great.
Right on.
Welcome back, Weekly Dion.
If
Thanks,
I could
Auntie.
have guessed, I knew that was going to be you.
I wouldn't have guessed Karen. You're becoming more cool every single day, Karen.
Thank you. I just wanted to let you know you finally are back and filling in my Thursday evening, so welcome back, guys.
Thank you. I'm
Thanks,
glad
Karen.
I could help.
All right, bye-bye. Have a great show.
Thanks. That was good. I got to get that theme music. Dan, what was your theme music? You didn't play that for me.
Theme music? I don't have anything. I was about to ask you which sweat hog each of you are.
What are you talking about?
That was the
Welcome back.
welcome
Yeah.
back part.
Vinnie Barbarino or...
So who's John Travolta and who's Horshack?
I have no idea. Dan, this is way above my...
Yeah, Dan, Ben doesn't even have a clue what the hell you're talking about.
Darryl understands.
Yeah,
don't you?
yeah. I don't think I'm Horshack. I could have... And you know what? Travolta is way out of my league. I was probably the Cotter.
Oh,
I'm lost.
How about you, Dan? What do you think?
yeah, I can see that. I'm definitely Horshack. Come on.
Hey, I didn't want to say it. I got to tell you, Dan, you're coming in loud and clear. It's beautiful.
Excellent.
Great
That's
sound
great, yeah.
quality.
My dad's
Well,
very
that's
fascinated by this technology we have.
Always.
No, right. Well, the whole weird thing is, since this whole pandemic started, the first thing that I did, that first week, two months ago. Oh my God, has it been 2 months, 2.5 months now?
Yeah.
Almost 3.
Yep.
I immediately, I spent a week just turning my office into my studio,
Yeah.
because because all of my events, everything that I do now, probably for the rest of the year, to get in front of people is going to be, sitting right here in my office studio now.
Right.
So, you have to improve the technology and get some good headphones and a good speaker and all that type of stuff. So I'm glad I'm glad you can hear me okay.
Oh, you're coming across great. And I sadly, I'm leaning towards agreeing with you in terms of the length of time that this is going to continue. I don't want it to go the year, but it's difficult to assess it.
Yeah, well, everything is closed though, Darryl. The businesses will reopen, but look, all the state fairs are closed. They just closed.
Yeah.
The fireworks thing has been canceled.
Mm-hmm.
There's nobody like me is going to be standing in front of a library audience this year. That's just not going to happen.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
so I'm trying to make it all virtual.
Well, and that's the cool thing is that I've seen that you guys have made all those events virtual or in some capacity so that people can participate, they can watch, they can join the conversation, which is really cool. I've seen that a lot. I did a few. The Chamber of Commerce, the Young Professionals group, did a few happy hours and after work kind of gatherings where they'd have a business owner and then they'd encourage you to have a drink with them and talk about the business and ask questions, and it was really cool. And I've seen more of that, and I hope even when this is over, there's still those events for even people that maybe don't still feel comfortable going out to the events live, that option's available for them.
Yeah. I think you're right. I think there's been a lot of time and energy and in some cases money invested in bringing a lot of these sort of entertainment businesses like the bookstores and the theaters and all that type of stuff online, getting everything virtual and digital. And when they open their doors again, some of that'll go away, but not all of it. There's still an infrastructure that's being created right now that's going to stick around in one form or another. I'm not sure what that form is going to be. I'm not sure I don't even know what I'm having for breakfast tomorrow anymore. But
yeah, we don't know what's going to be
us
on the horizon. We don't know for sure.
Right.
And you know what? I think that's a lot of people. There's a fear of the unknown, and that's part of what everyone is experiencing right now.
Yep.
We don't know what's on the horizon.
It's forced mindfulness. That's what I've been calling it. Forced mindfulness.
That's a good way to put it, though.
Yeah, you got that right too.
Like have the two of you and like whoever is listening out there, how many times in the last couple of months have we like sat down with like our boyfriends or girlfriends or significant other or wife or husband and like had that that like economy talk or that talk about household things or whatever, and that the conversation just ends with, well, I don't know what's happening tomorrow. We'll wait and see.
Yeah.
Exactly.
We'll figure it out tomorrow, because we don't really know.
Right.
And I really do thank God that we have the technology from which to draw from. Can you imagine if we didn't have this? Oh my God, there'd be people jumping out of windows.
I would go insane.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
You need some sort of outlet, and
the technology saved us,
and it's allowed us to do all the platforms, and the platforms have made it available for people that maybe can't afford it or can't have access to it all the time, and they've been able to have that. So it's been good.
Right on.
But Dan, for people who don't know who you are, first of all, I feel bad.
Come
for
on,
them.
everyone knows.
What? Come on.
I feel bad for them, but tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Well, I've been in New Hampshire now since 1999. I'm a journalist and a reporter by trade. I'm born and raised in Western New York, in Buffalo, New York, and moved around the country for a few years, working for a variety of different newspapers and media organizations. Until 1999, I was in New Jersey at the time doing state political reporting in New Jersey, and I came up to New Hampshire to cover the George W. Bush, Al Gore presidential primary. And that's what brought me up to New Hampshire at the time. And I'd been a political reporter for years and years down in New Jersey, but I was really I was always like yourself, Ben. I was always sort of a real sort of policy wonk. I really liked how laws were made and how they affected people and like how government could help people. That was sort of my thing.
Right.
And you get to that stage, you get to the big national stage where you're covering presidential politics, and I really didn't like it at all. It was it was all about right. It was all about pancake breakfasts and what people were wearing, and it was really dirty, and it was all cutthroat, and it was just so unappealing to me.
And it
which is a
remains
real-
it remains that way, Dan.
Yeah, and the funny thing is that you look back, like I talk about like presidential politics as being really dirty, and like in 1999, how quaint compared to how it is now. It's so much more than it was back then. But anyway, I didn't like it, and but I liked New Hampshire and I liked northern New England, and I decided to stay. So myself and a couple partners, Jody Reese and Jeff Rapsis, also two reporters at the time, co-founded Hippo Press. And I still remain as associate publisher of Hippo Press. I don't have any day-to-day duties there anymore, but I'm still on the board. It's still near and dear to my heart. And I started writing books, mostly primarily travel logs and narrative nonfiction. As you know, Darryl, my last book was The White Mountain, about Mount Washington.
Loved it.
And thank you. And I just released a new book, of all the times to release a new book. We decided right in the middle of a pandemic. The book just was released officially 2 days ago, June 2nd. It's called You and Me, Reflections on Becoming Your Dad. And it's a collection of essays and short sort of prose pieces over the course of 5 years about my daughter, Uma, who's now 5.5 years old.
Wow.
So... so I was really excited. When did we plan this, Ben? This was like...
It was a while ago.
This is like 6 months ago or 4 months ago. That we planned on.
Yeah, it could have been December.
And Lincoln wasn't born, and there was no pandemic, and how the world's changed in a couple of months, right?
Drastically.
Yeah. I mean, that was that. I'm pretty sure that was in either December or January.
Yeah.
Because we had talked about it. You wanted to do it near the release, and whether it was Father's Day or before then, because it's a perfect book to talk about Father's Day.
Yeah.
Too. So yeah, we planned it a while ago. And the funny thing is, so I wanted to bring this up because I thought it was funny how you, me, and John Clayton have a connection from when you came to report and the pancake flipping the Bisquick. You were reporting. That was when Gary Bauer fell off the stage.
Yes, that was my story.
I was reporting
for AP. I reported that. Yeah.
You were reporting. I was there as a 10 or 11-year-old, and John Clayton was emceeing.
Wow.
Which is so weird.
It is a little odd. Yeah, yeah.
And I think there was other people there. I forget who else that some of the other people I've talked to, and that they were there too, but like in another capacity, and how everyone's paths cross, but in different areas. It's just funny.
Yeah.
Like we could have walked right by each other.
Right, we probably did. I probably was like, "Hey, what's this kid doing here? Get him out of here."
Well, yeah, I was among all the old people because my papa brought me.
Yeah,
and he got us in, and it was. I love those experiences just because they see a younger kid and they're like, "What the heck is he doing here? He can't vote," but also they want to talk and they want to, it gives them free press because the press is going to cover them talking to a little kid. So, which I think I was still pretty tall at that age anyway. So. Was
that like one of your like formational experiences of getting into politics, or were you interested before that?
I mean, I would say it's one of the bigger events that I went to as a younger kid. I was always going to do the kids vote, and I was always very active because of my papa, and he always was involved and wanted to know what was going on and informed me. Mm-hmm. Never pushed any certain way because I didn't even know which way he was. It was more of, this is what it is. This is the process. You should be involved. And that was one of the bigger events because I think at that one I met Elizabeth Doyle.
Was it that one?
Elizabeth Dole.
Yeah. Dole, yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's the one I met her because I met her. Alan Keyes, loved Alan Keyes at the time. I'm not sure how he is right now, but I don't think I'd align with his politics now. But
we don't know where he is either.
He came to talk to me twice, and he recognized me. He remembered me from the first time he talked to me.
Wow.
So it was kind of cool. But I just think that's a funny connection that we share.
Right.
I think he sent me the video too.
Right, and then here we are, like 20 years later.
Seriously.
Me getting more viewership than John Clayton. Who would have thought?
I love it.
Oh, that's great.
Come on, I know John is listening. You got to call him, John. Come on, I know you're there.
He's
I could dig it. Yeah.
He's not going to do it just because he's probably grilling or smoking some sort of meat in his backyard.
Exactly.
And every time he posts these pictures, I always comment and say, "Do you do delivery?" And he hasn't answered me. He just likes the comment, and I'm like, "John, I'm serious."
I didn't know he was a griller.
and his wife.
Oh, outstanding.
I think she does a lot more of the smoking of the meats.
They
and
actually
ribs
have a
and stuff.
smoker as well?
Yeah.
Wow.
And-
That's serious.
And you live pretty close to John, don't you?
Yeah,
you?
we're like it's like a quarter of a mile. We
Yeah.
walk by his house all the time.
Wow.
But we always try to plan it so that he's outside, but he sees us coming and they always run in. So he has some sort of an alarm system, I suspect.
I can see that.
It's built
Oh
in.
no! You know what the alarm system is? It's my daughter, who's really loud and talks a lot, and he can hear her for a long ways away. He's like, "Come on, pull the curtains. They're coming."
Yeah, really.
You know?
That's funny. Now, we're not going to talk about your favorite thing to do currently, because currently there's not a lot of fun things to do out in Manchester. But, if you could describe Manchester at this point in time right now, how would you describe it in one word?
I would say, I was thinking about this the other. It's like I was wondering if you were going to ask me like to describe Manchester generally or describe Manchester lately.
Yes, lately.
Lately.
There's a big difference.
Oh yeah.
But really, in the past couple of weeks, Manchester has really. I don't know if there's a description of them, but proud. They've done themselves proud. I'm really impressed. With the protests and with all the sort of unrest and everything that's happening. There's been a little bit here and there, but generally speaking, I think we've done pretty good. Wouldn't you say? I think we've acquitted ourselves well here in Manchester.
I think we have. I think, I knew
it's
there was
not
going to...
perfect, but
Well, no, and I didn't expect
good.
that, but I think the way we've handled the different situations, whether it's the pandemic, whether it's the protests and the marches, which actually next week I'm really excited for our guest next week, because one of my former students who is one of the organizers for Black Lives Matters in Manchester, Renelle, she's coming on the show too. And I give kudos to her so much, because she's done a great job in how organized and how vocal and just passionate she is about this, and just, I guess, keeping the movement going and moving forward. But I think we've handled it really well, and I think it's thanks to people like her that
Absolutely
have been passionate, but also very smart about it and very transparent about the movement and their goals, and working with the different agencies to keep it peaceful, but also informative too. I think that's the most important thing.
exactly.
Yeah. So I'd have to say it's been I've been a little surprised that we've done as well as we have. Again, I'm not naive. There's trouble and there's issues and there's been there's unrest.
Right.
There's always going to be, but it's been considering everything that's going on, we've come out pretty well.
I think they've handled it very well.
Yeah. I mean, especially during this time where everyone's staying in and so to not go to these it weighs on people. So I think considering all of that, I think we've handled it pretty well. I don't know how long it's going to hold up to.
Yeah, really.
But
So far, so good.
Right? Yeah.
we'll see. But I do want to dive into your book and talk about being a father. And so we're going to go to our next segment. But just to remind everyone, you're listening to the Weekly Dion on 95.3 FM WMNH. If you want to call in and join our conversation with Dan Shisney, call in at 603-250-6007. But we'll move on to our next segment, which is called The Downtown Lowdown. In the Downtown Lowdown, we'll talk to our guest more about his book and being an author and being a father, and we'll go into some COVID-19 updates near the end of it, as well as talk about the march that happened last weekend and the vigil that happened on Tuesday as well. But Dan, you're here as an author, and the first time you came on the show, I felt like I knew you for
Already?
years.
Yeah, really.
Just because of you've listened to the show a lot. You're familiar with it, and reading your book, I feel like you get to know you the way you write. I feel like it's very personable, and I can get to know how you are as a person and know you better just reading. And in The White Mountain,
That's beautiful.
I'm like the kind of books that I like to read is more of like biography and history. And I think you took a good middle ground of that, because it's real life events and it's personal events, but also about the
It's
history,
historical.
and it's a whole encompassing. So to me, that's honestly, it's one of my favorite books because it's so easy to read, and I can, like, I'm not a good reader. I'm gonna admit this. I could read Harry Potter and not see any of that. I don't have an imagination. I don't know why. I've never been that way.
It's not my fault.
But when I read your book, I can see it. I can see it play out in front of me, and it was really cool to read that book, and we went to go see the documentary you guys had at the book review that showing.
right.
That was
Yeah,
great too.
that was cool.
That feels like forever ago, even though I think that was
It seemed like forever.
It was like January.
Was it
or-
January?
Or December. It
I
was like
think
only
so.
3 months ago or
Yeah.
4 months ago or
That
something
feels like-
ridiculous like that.
feels
Yeah.
like 5 years ago.
Yeah, really.
It does, right?
It's so weird.
You know, it's funny too, Dan. I felt the same way in reading your book. It was very personal, and I took it that way. And you walked us through it like we were there, and that's I think that's the ultimate goal of a great writer.
Yeah, man, that's what. Well, for the White Mountain, for the White Mountain, but generally speaking, in my writing, that's the style of writing I like writing. That sort of narrative nonfiction that has an arc, and it reads like a story. I like telling stories. That was my favorite part of being a journalist. Wasn't covering the planning board meetings. It was sitting down and interviewing interesting people and telling their story. I'm not very interested in celebrities and politicians. I'm just interested in people,
Right.
just like normal people. And everybody has a story to tell. And if you let them speak, if you give them time and just sit there and be interested, they'll talk to you and talk to you and talk to you.
Yeah.
And all you have to do sometimes is just shut up and turn the tape recorder on, because in the White Mountain, I don't interview anyone super special in that book. There's a lot of names like the Alton Weagles and the Barbara Hulls and the George Entwilers. All these people, if you just mention their name, nobody would know who they are, but they all have these incredible epic stories that have to do, sometimes with that mountain, but just sometimes with living, and
Right.
So my job in a lot of my writing, I feel, is just as a facilitator, to just drive the bus up to these incredible people and let them get in and take them for a ride, and then let the reader find out about them, and it's and I like doing it. I love doing it, and so thank you. That's a very high compliment that you pay me, because that's what I'm trying to do. Yeah.
And I when you told me about, I think we talked about the newest book at that event, and I was just like, well, I'm excited for this just because just to know how you tell the story, and just I know I'll be able to visualize everything that's kind of going on, and your feelings and emotions, and
Right.
that's why I was excited for it, especially because I'm now a dad, and
Yeah.
I need all the advice I can get. I'm taking any and all, and I've also realized I don't have to ask for advice. Most people just tell me.
And
Isn't that true?
he's in the game real early too. There's a lot to come.
Yeah, really. Are you getting any sleep? First of all, that's
Oh, that's a good
first
question.
Are
The
you
good-
getting any sleep?
The good thing is
that's the first question.
we've kind of figured out the schedule of this
Yeah.
little man that's controlling us. But it's we have our routines, and I think he's kind of getting the routines. And it's just kind of interesting to adapt and different ways you have to figure it out, and especially during this time, it's very odd because we're not bringing him anywhere really. I mean, every weekend we try to take a trip out somewhere to a park, places that aren't going to be that crowded, but we can get outside or do something. When it rains, it sucks.
Or visit Pepe.
Or visit Pepe, and but it's been tough just because of everything that's been going on. So especially during this time, you can't do the normal things that you were doing before, and you
Right.
can't have all these people that come over, especially just because of everything that is going on. You have to be extra protective, and I've realized that when we go out, I'm watching people like a hawk. Like someone's walking near me, and I don't care what their intentions are. My leg's pretty long. I'm 6'2". I think I could ward them off without having to really make a lot of contact.
Yeah, man. I mean, has like a trip to the grocery store ever been so like anxiety ridden before?
It's
like,
really
oh my God,
incredible.
I have to go to Market Basket today.
Oh, be careful, man.
But it is like that, and that's the weird thing. And I hope that by the time he can remember things, that he doesn't know any of this, because it's just weird and it's just odd. And but I was very excited for this book. I have not bought the book yet because I have a feeling I'm getting the book from someone. So I'm not. I was holding off, but I'm very excited to read the book, and when I'm not, saving up my sleep.
Well, I appreciate it. Yeah, I didn't set out to write this book. That it wasn't my plan. I didn't, it like 5 years ago when Uma was born, I wasn't like, in 2020 in the middle of a pandemic, I'm going to publish this book. I had no sense of that. I only, I talk a little bit more about it in the book, but the pregnancy was great, but the birth was a difficult birth for us, and it was full of challenges and hospital visits and operations, and it was a pretty lousy couple of months there at first. And I spent a lot of time at Elliott Hospital, between doctor's visits and waiting rooms and all sorts of things. So I had a lot of time on my hands, and as I often do when I'm when I'm stressed or I have anxiety or I'm looking for some sort of a therapeutic release, I just write. That's what I do. And I had a notebook with me, and I just started writing. And I pretty much day after day, sometimes hour after hour, that's how I would fill my time. I wasn't getting any sleep. I had terrible insomnia at the time, so I had a lot of time on my hands, and I wrote. And my wife is super popular. So she had a lot of friends and family who were trying to figure out, what was happening, give us some updates, that sort of thing. And I'm not, I didn't have the brain space to just be calling people all the time. Mm-hmm. So I would post, as you've seen, I would post little bits and pieces or little essays, whatever, out on social media as a way of just keeping in touch with people who loved us, who were concerned about us, with our family and friends. And it didn't take long for me to realize that, some of the things that we were going through were universal. That all parents and all guardians and caregivers are facing a lot of these decisions. It's not all romantic, as you're learning.
A couple of tweaks away from romantic.
Yeah, right. So they became pretty popular, and I thought, well, I'll just keep doing this. It seems to be a good way for me to express my own feelings, and maybe to have a record for Uma. When after she goes through the teenage years of hating it, then maybe she'll come back and like it in her 20s. But I wanted there to be a record of all of that, and that's what I do. Artists paint and writers write. So after a few years of doing it, and last fall, I was sitting with my publisher, and she said, I'm starting this series called the Reflections series, and it's one book per author, writing essays on a particular subject of a particular theme. And I've been, she stalks me on social media, so she says, I've been watching you writing about your daughter, and I think this would be a really good, volume 1 for this series if you put together a book of collected essays. And that was really the first time where it occurred to me, I guess I could do that. So I went back over 5 years of time, over all my social media and in all my notebooks and so forth, and I built a manuscript out of everything that I wrote about Uma or my family over the course of 5 years, and it came to about 300,000 words.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's serious.
And the book is 30,000 words. So, so most of my fall last year, most of the writing, I put writing, if you could see me, I'm doing air quotes. Most of the writing of this book was editing, was trimming the essays down or combining certain essays and making it make sense. Because like every year I write about Halloween and every year I write about Christmas, so I had to pick and choose what I was going to write about and not repeat myself and stuff like that. So it was it was an enormous editing job, but I think we did I think it came together pretty well. It's very raw and it's very probably the most honest book that I've ever written and most personal book that I've ever written. But that's the whole point of it.
Right. Well, and I think people appreciate that and want to read something that is that honest and pure because they can understand to that and they can relate to that. And I'm looking forward to it. And it's funny because I've always had this thought of what I was going to do when I have kids. And I did it, but I haven't started really like writing or doing much with it yet. So when Lincoln was born, I created an email for him. And I created a Google account for him. So, and I've already started to upload the pictures, but any pictures that we take from when, a little bit before he was born up to when he was born and then forward, I'm going to put all the pictures in this Google account. Yeah. And I don't know if Ashley's done it yet, but basically we can email the account and it can be like letters to him.
Yeah, cool.
And, we'll put videos, we'll put all these different things in it. That's what I want to do at least. And then my hope is to kind of keep it under wraps. And then maybe when he turns 18, give him the account.
Right.
And say, this is your account.
In there for him,
and he has it all there. And it's kind of like a live journal.
Yeah.
Because everything's, dated and timed and everything. And, maybe I can make a video. I was like, oh, you're a real jerk today. So I'm like, hey, what happened that day? But it can be like a living document. And
pretty good idea.
That's why I like this book because that's what it seems like you kind of did was collected all those, moments from posts and writings. And, I think that's my way of doing it just because I feel like, we have all this technology. We have, we have a little recording device on our phones that can do all this. And then we can store it safely and be able to look back at it later on. So I'm excited to do that. And I'm, maybe I'll post this show in there too. You can just save the show and put it in there.
Yeah, man. There you go. It's like we're all, we can all be archivists now.
Oh, absolutely.
We can do that. And it was funny because I was recently digging through some old, boxes of photographs. Remember photographs? Remember those?
Yeah,
things?
I remember those things.
And it occurred to me. I was like, oh my God, what a mess this is. And like I have like a few dozen shots of like my dad when he was a boy, but not that many, and because they couldn't do that. They didn't, they couldn't take that many pictures back then. It was like a big deal back then. And I was like, I have more pictures of my daughter in one day than like my dad, like from 0 to 50.
There you go. Yeah.
So we have all of this digital material now that is just that's anything, and any picture can be a good picture now. We can just keep taking them until we get the picture that we want. Until and you look back at some of those old pictures, like the old pictures that I took like in the 70s, and like I'm like, why did I put that picture in the photo album? That's nothing. What an awful photo. What was I thinking? But it's all I had,
Right.
That was it.
Yeah, that was it. That's the picture you took, and you get it back from the photomat or whatever, and it stinks, but hey, it's going in the photo album anyway, So it's a whole different world now. So yeah, I think you're on the right track. Just collect it, man. Just be an archivist, and at some point he's gonna just like Uma's gonna ask you, what the heck is all this stuff?
And why did you do that?
And why did you do that? Yeah.
Well,
I would make I would make copies of everything that you say for him.
Right.
So when he destroys it all, you'll have
Backup.
Yeah.
You'll have all backup to give him 10 years later when he appreciates it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And there may be a time where he will appreciate it.
Well,
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we've all
Absolutely.
been through
Oh,
that,
yeah.
right? Like, you're a teenager, you know everything, and you don't care, and whatever. You're just embarrassed by, your parents just embarrass you. But then, at some point you start, right? At some point, like your paths start crossing again. You know what I mean?
Right.
Right.
And so now I'm like totally my dad. So it's cool.
Well, I don't know if I want to be Darryl over there.
I'm not
really
sure if I want you to be me either. Some aspects,
the
perhaps.
one fashion trend that he's never given up, and this is funny because it's so
stop.
true,
Just
is the bright white socks
Just
he
stop.
wears. He wears.
They're not the high ones; they're the low ones.
We finally got him to wear like this, like they're not ankle socks, but they're not like crew socks. They're like
They're on my ankle.
Yeah.
you don't know what an ankle sock is, but like
But are they white or are they black?
Oh, they're definitely white.
they're always white.
Have you're not switching over to the black yet, Darryl?
Not yet. I'm trying to, but I'm
He's-
stuck in the mud.
Yeah.
It's funny though. We got him away from the New Balance sneakers though.
Yeah.
He was literally a walking stereotype. Cargo. I mean, I'm wearing cargo shorts, so I can't really judge. I
You
can't really
better
say
not.
it right now. But he always had like the whitish khaki, like the not the tan khaki. He had the white
Right.
khaki,
Like I got on today.
like he has on today, pulled up high with the white socks.
It's not that high.
Like he's perpetually barbecuing.
Yeah,
Pretty much.
like there
Yeah.
should be a spatula in his hand.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah,
That's
like
where I'm most
tongs.
comfortable.
Like,
Give me a
like he's
spatula.
wearing, like he has tongs around his neck. Like
Oh,
he's
yeah,
like
yeah.
if you asked him for tongs, he'd have them in his cargo pants somehow.
Oh, he'd
Whip
had
them
everything
right out.
there. Yeah,
Yeah, right.
Lots of utility with those cargo shorts. But no, it's interesting to think about that, and that's why I'm glad to have you on the show. And I think I'm going to try to do like a Father's Day or like a fatherly show as we get closer to Father's Day as well.
Yeah, man. Let's do. I'll call in. Let's let's bring them all. Let's bring them all live. Let's grab our kids and do a Facebook Live and somehow think of the chaos that would be, like all the kids.
Everyone
just, like,
have to
together,
mute everything. You just hear lots of yelling.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Just screaming for an hour.
Well, it
And that would
depends
be-
when you caught Lincoln. He might be sleeping because it seems like he just passes out when we feed him now. He just
He loves to sleep.
halfway through the feeding. I'm like, he's done. He's a limp noodle. He's not gonna move. He's done. Or if you get him right before the bottle, it's like we're murdering him. It's like we're trying to kill him. And I looked at him. I said, "We're gonna feed you, buddy.
Yeah, don't worry, buddy.
It's okay." And I said, "I think we should. I might do this still, just to videotape him in these different stages, and then to take out the audio and just narrate what his voice would be saying, like when he's screaming,
Yeah.
"Give me the bottle! Give me the bottle! Give it to me!"
That's not a bad idea.
I think it'd be kind of funny.
Really funny.
But I just like the way that this book is written and just the collection, and it's not necessarily like a full story, but it's a collection of all these different moments in time. And from the book, what do you think is your favorite? What was your favorite thing to kind of look back on as you were, thinking of that story of women's life?
Well, I'll tell you a quick story. That there's an essay in the book called Wanted Heroes. Wanted : Heroes. And we took we are not shy about not now we can't, but we are not shy about taking Uma out and about, and we've taken her on vacation, we've taken her overseas. She's seen 4 countries and 22 states, and she's only 5.
Wow,
so
jeez, bro.
She's got me beat.
and we love being on the road with her, and so we took her. This was 2018. We did a big Midwest. We did a big trip. When was Hurricane Florence? Remember Hurricane Florence a couple of years ago?
Oh boy!
And we were going down to the Carolinas because I actually had a poetry event there. So we made it this big family thing, and we headed south to go to this poetry event. The North Carolina Poetry Society invited me down there to do a talk, and we got as far as the Shenandoah National Park when Hurricane Florence hit.
Oh wow.
And everybody, they were escaping the beaches, and they were heading all north. And we were like, well, the poetry thing was canceled, so we were like, well, we ain't going down there. So we still have a week left on our vacation, and here we are on the road. What do we do? So we headed west instead, and we went to West Virginia, and we went up through Ohio, and we did Pittsburgh and central Pennsylvania, and we ended up in Shanksville, Pennsylvania. On the anniversary of 9/11.
Oh wow.
It wasn't planned, Yeah. I mean, literally, it was like my wife was like looking at her phone, and she's like, "Hey, isn't Shanksville where the planes? Isn't there a park there?" And I was like, "Yeah, why?" And she's like, "'Cause it's that exit." So that's literally how it happened.
Wow.
Okay.
So there we went. So we went there during, and like Trump was there like 3 hours before we showed up. So there was still like Secret Service, and there was just like thousands of people at this place, and we'd never been there. And we stopped at a Goodwill store just outside the park. This is a true story because we need to go to the bathroom. By the way, bathroom breaks. This is something that you need to plan in your life.
Most definitely.
This is, give some serious thought to bathroom breaks, Ben.
Okay. I'm writing this stuff down too.
Yeah, really. I mean, if I can give you one bit of advice, man, just like spend an evening with Ashley just thinking about bathrooms. So anyway, so we stop at the Goodwill to go to the bathroom, and my daughter Uma, who's like 3, she was 3.5 at the time, almost 4, finds this superhero cape and a superhero mask, and she was really into the Incredibles at the time, and it was like $2, right? So whatever. That's another thing too, by the way. Don't argue over $2.
Right.
So anyway,
Never.
ever, right? Because it is not worth the tantrum.
No.
So we bought her this superhero cape because Halloween was coming up, and we figured, well, she'd be a superhero for Halloween. So we get to Shanksville, 9/11, anniversary of 9/11, this really super moving, incredible place, and we get out of the car, and she says, "I want to wear my superhero cape. I want to dress like a superhero." And I was like, "Oh, come on! I don't know if that's a good idea." But my wife, who is a really super brave person, is like, "No, let her put it on. That's cool. It'll be fine." So there's my little 3-year-old walking through, the 9/11 memorial. Thousands of people, all these vets, like motorcycle guys, Secret Service, police, all these people. And there's my little 3-year-old dressed like a superhero, walking through this place. And it was like Moses parting the sea. It was like people had this incredible visceral reaction to this little girl dressed like a superhero. In fact, I'm sort of tearing up just talking about it.
Wow.
This little girl dressed as a superhero just walking through this place of this holy ground, of incredible reverence. And like motorcycle guys are like these big leather jacketed bearded guys are coming up and like, shaking my hand and stuff. And I'm like, dude, I have nothing to do with this. Like we planned this, like this was like some sort of, like art in order to but it was like so anyway, we walk through here and we come up, I don't know if you've ever been there, but it's a really moving area, and it's designed you walk down this long corridor, and it's designed in the flight path that the plane came down. And you walk through this long row, and there's people on both sides, and you come to this end, and it's like on this little hillock, and there's this big overlook, and you can look down into the field, and you can see where the plane crashed, and it's this really moving place. And there's a park ranger there at the end. And Uma says, "Is that a policeman?" And I said, no. I said, no, he's a park ranger, but let's go talk to him. Because, national park rangers are pretty cool guys and girls.
Oh, yeah.
So we go up and we talk to him. I'm holding her, and we go up to him, and she says, "Are you a policeman?" And he says, "No." He says, I'm a park ranger. And she says, "Well, what do you do?" And he says, "Well, I help people." And she says, "Oh, you help people like a superhero would help people," because she's in this superhero mindset, And and I swear to God, he's a good foot. He's like 6'7", and his name ended up being Thomas. He takes his sunglasses off, he takes his hat off, and he bends down like eye level with her. This wasn't a performance. There's nobody around. Mm-hmm. He bends down eye level to her, and he says, "What's your name?" And she says, my name's Uma. And he says, Uma, today the only superhero here is you.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's emotional. That's emotional.
It was really amazing. And I'm just crying, you know, and my wife is crying, and
I'll
like
bet.
the ranger is crying, and Uma's like, I'm a superhero, you know? You know, so I apologize. That's a very long story, but that was probably my favorite essay.
It's a good story.
That's a great story. And that's one of those things, like, she doesn't understand the significance and the, you know, she's probably like, why is everyone crying? I'm a superhero.
Right.
Everyone should be happy. I'm here to save the day.
Right, exactly. And that's all she wanted. That's all she wanted to be, man, was a superhero.
Right.
And the thing is, she was, you know?
Yeah? Oh.
She was. She like made people's day that day.
Mm-hmm.
You know, she made people happier
Right.
that day without even realizing why or how she was doing it. So
Right. And that's
someday
important.
she'll figure it out.
Oh yeah, and that's a really cool story. I love that, and I've never been there, but I've had some former students that have been to that area, and they said it's a very ominous feeling. It's hard to explain. It's very deep.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
And
It's very
heavy.
deep. That's exactly right. It was
Yeah.
a very, very deep day for us. Yeah.
Definitely.
So I think that's my favorite essay, and that essay, by the way, is also going to appear in the September issue of New Hampshire Magazine.
Oh, cool.
This
All
year.
right.
Awesome.
Yeah. So everybody will get to read it as well.
That's
Cool.
a beauty.
So another thing I wanted to ask you. I feel like the time is flying. We only got
I know.
15 minutes left.
Let's keep going. Let's talk till midnight. We can do it. Who's on after you? Nobody important. Come on.
I think there is actually. I don't know. But if you could give me any advice, I guess maybe broad advice in general, from the collection, from the book,
Yeah.
what would you give for advice?
Oh man. And a new dad. So how old is Lincoln now? Just a couple months, right?
He's gonna be.
He's sneaking up on 2, I think.
He's almost 2 months. Yeah, he'll be 2 months next week. Yeah.
Wow, 2 months. Time flies, huh? Pretty soon he's going to be 20. You know that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ashley's probably crying from you just saying that, because she looks at him. She's like, he's so big. I'm like, it's 2 months.
That's how fast it goes, though. It's really.
Yeah.
And you know what I just not recently found out, but as you get older, it goes by faster.
Well,
Yeah, it just speeds up, doesn't it? It's like you're downhill, right? And you start and it's an endless downhill.
Endless.
Right? Where you just keep going faster and faster and faster, and you can't stop.
There was a period in my life where I actually considered trying to figure out a way to slow it down. And in that attempt, I failed miserably because I sped it up.
Yeah.
It really is incredible.
That's the thing, Ben. This book is about living in the moment, right? It's the easiest thing to say, and it's the hardest thing to do.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because we're always looking back, and like we're always either nostalgic for like how it was, or we're terrified of how it's going to be. You know?
Right.
And
The moment.
and so, you know, I wrote this, I mean, a lot of the writing in this book has to do with me just trying to, I don't know, just like go with the flow. I mean, I know it's a really like cliched thing to say, you know, but just don't, like if you try to swim upriver against the current, you're gonna miss everything. You know, you just gotta ride with it. It's like being in a, like I said, it's like being in a, you know, like an inner tube, you know, and just like, you're just holding on, and you know life is passing. But if you just got to enjoy it.
Yeah.
So my advice to you, and I write a little bit about this in the book, is that there's no roadmap, right? There's no roadmap for this. I thought that there was. You know, when we first started being parents, I thought, I'll just go like online. A lot of people have written about this, and there must be like, Dr. Spock must know how this is all done, right? There must be, you know, there must be some way. But there isn't. Like everything is different, and every kid is individual, and every parent is individual, and there's literally no roadmap. So what you got to do is you have to look forward to not knowing, right?
That's really scary, man.
I know, it's the most terrifying thing in the world.
It really is.
Wow.
You have to and I don't mean just accept not knowing, right? Accepting not knowing is one thing. we accept not knowing every time we get in the car or get on the bus or wake up in the morning. We accept that as part of our lives. But you have to go further. You have to enjoy not knowing, right?
Right. Good luck with that.
You have to be like, oh, I didn't see that coming, but it's cool. That's where the thing that's taking that is really hard and a challenge that I'm still, every day I work at that. Like she'll come up to me with something and I'm like, well, what in heaven's name? Where in heaven's name did you get that idea from? Like this morning, this just happened to me this morning, Ben. So her uncle lives like a half mile away from us, and we go back and forth a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And so her mother this morning was out grocery shopping. She was sleeping, and I was still sleeping. And she came into my bedroom fully dressed with her shoes on and her bicycle helmet on.
Uh-oh.
And she was like, Dad, I'm driving to Uncle Bob's. And I was like, what?
Wow.
What? And she had gotten out. She opened the door, like she had pulled her bike out. She was going, and it was like for some weird thing, like she just decided to tell me. You know what I mean? If she hadn't told me, I would have woken up and I would have called the police.
Most definitely.
So I'm like, we got to talk.
Wow.
That's a riot, man. Oh,
I know,
geez.
it's a riot, and it's like, be careful what you ask her, right? My wife and I are always talking about, well, how, we want her to be this. I'm not aggressive, but we want her to be an individual. We want her to have her own ideas, and we want her to have her own little person. But when that actually happens, I'm like, oh, crud.
Oh, that's a riot, man. That's
what
really
have we
funny.
done?
Yeah, really.
So embrace the fact that most of the time you're not going to have any idea what's going on.
That's very reassuring advice.
But that's
Is
reality.
that reassuring? Yeah.
Very reassuring. I mean, I'm already, like, I think what I've always been saying is I'm prepared to be unprepared.
Yeah, man, prepared to be unprepared. Right. Be comfortable with the discomfort. There you go.
I don't like that one. I like I don't like discomfort. I like the.
Who the hell likes discomfort?
Well, I mean, I'm okay with go with the flow. I feel like that's how usually, like, I think that's a lot of my personality is more of,
I think so, too.
go with the flow and, take things as they come and do with it one step at a time. I haven't always been like that, but I feel like I've adapted over as I've gotten older and realized certain things and what matters and what doesn't matter. And
I think in that respect, Ben is very much like his mother.
Yes.
Very much. Not like me.
No.
Because I'm out of control. And it's been that way for many years.
He just hit the mic. Of course he's out of control. But no, but I feel like that's something, it's funny. We talk about what is Lincoln going to get for different attributes and different things, and we talk about, and we all hope that he's just laid back like me, like just calm and
nice and easy,
laid back and easygoing. But it's tough to get there. I feel like that comes with it comes as you get older, and you kind of realize things.
Yeah, so. Man. Yes, and he's gonna, wait till he starts having opinions. Then, woo,
that's not allowed. That's not allowed in my household.
Not allowed.
That's like 4 or 5-year-old opinions. Those are wow. I should just do a little pocketbook of toddler opinions. That's
not a bad idea, Dan.
Yeah, right.
That's
I know, right? You know what I'm talking about, right? Darryl?
I know what you're talking about.
There comes this certain point where she'll do or say something, and I'm like, where did you get that? Where that didn't come from me. That piece of whatever, that piece of your character came from outside this house, and we got to figure out where that came from.
That's funny.
So so they start developing into little people, and it's awesome and terrifying at the same time.
At the same time, yeah.
I think it was funny because I think we were at an event at the Bookery. I think we ran into you, or I think it might have just been your wife and Uma. And I recognized Uma, but I didn't know your wife, so I didn't say anything. And Uma read a poem. She it was her first open mic. She went to an open mic. Wow. Yeah. And she read the poem, and me and my wife were just sitting there, just in awe of this is the most adorable thing we have ever heard in our life. And it was just, and we have somebody, we have so many friends that have kids and younger kids, and we're like, the biggest thing we're wondering right now is what is his voice going to sound like?
Yeah.
And like, what's the little personality? When is that gonna? How is that gonna develop early on? And how?
So many things.
Because we have a lot of friends that have kids that are, they're younger. They're like, 3-4 years old, and their little voices coming out. And we're like, oh, I hope our kid's voice sounds like that. It's just so adorable. That's the thing I'm looking forward to.
Could be squeaky.
Well, it's probably going to be squeaky. Small and squeaky. That's fine. But Dan, we are running a little low on time. I know. I wish we could go for...
How did that happen? I mean, his name is Lincoln, dude. He's going to have like a big booming orator voice,
Absolutely.
Right?
He already has he ponders a lot. I remember when I left to come to the show, my mother-in-law is holding him, Marca's holding him, and he's just looking off. And she's just like, he's just thinking about stuff. But he heard my voice and he turned his head, which is kind of cool. Wow. He's starting to.
That's very cool.
To recognize that, so which is really cool.
I actually have a whole essay in the book about the first time I feel like Uma started getting like we started knowing each other, like we started understanding who each other was. Like she could like I walked into a room and she looked at me and smiled, like, she was aware of who I was.
That's cool.
That's really
like
cool.
a really important moment.
Yeah.
Wait till he smiles at you the first time, man. Woo.
He's doing it right now, but they're not intentional.
I don't think it's intentional.
Yeah, no,
they're fart smiles.
Could be gas.
Yeah, right.
He just looks at me and smiles, and then farts on me.
It's just all synapses firing right now. It's
that's
not
it.
thing.
That's it.
He's testing his face muscles, but you'll know the real smile.
So we are running a little bit low at a time, but I do want to close out with a few shout-outs before we close out the show. We didn't go to any of the segments, Dan. It took too much time.
Hey, you know what? It was a great show, and I love listening to Dan. He's got great stories all the time.
Oh, thank you, man. I appreciate it. If you do that Father's Day thing, you better include me. Let's do it.
Yes, I will. I'll let you know what we're doing with that, and
absolutely,
we'll have you call in, and we'll have you contribute to that as well.
Awesome.
But a big shout out to everyone, obviously all my listeners on 95.3 FM WMNH. Thanks for listening on the radio. If you're watching on Facebook Live, thanks for listening on there. We're back on the radio, so we'll be back next week live right here again on 95.3 FM WMNH. Big shout out to the morning show with Peter White every weekday from 7 to 9 a.m. And another big shout out to Matt Connerton Unleashed every weekday from 4 to 6 p.m. Matt, thanks for wiping down everything. It was very clean and clean. It smells great in here too.
Great, yeah.
Just to make sure everyone's healthy and safe. Dan, it's been a pleasure. I love having you on. I love just talking to you. I feel like we could just talk for hours. It's probably a good thing we've been limited by an hour.
I know, right?
People would
just go on and on.
We could go on, no doubt. Great talking to you, Dan.
Nice to hear both of you back on the air. Good to hear you, Darryl. Thank you both very much.
Thanks, Dan. We'll be in touch, and we'll pull you back for that Father's Day show.
Sounds fantastic.
All right.
Talk to you soon.
Thanks, Dan.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
And before we close out the show, I do want to remind everyone next week on the show, we're going to have one of my former students, Renelle, from Black Lives Matter of Manchester. She's going to come on and talk about the march, about the Candlelight Vigil, about the activities that are going on, and really get out the message. And I'm really excited to have her on. She's been interviewed by a few different publications, and I'm proud of her. So I'm really excited to see her and to talk to her, and she'll be in studio next week. Obviously, don't forget to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter and Instagram at The Weekly Dion. We'll still have updates and pictures from Manchester, interesting stories, things that are going on around. I know we didn't get to talk about COVID-19 or anything. I will say before we close out, I did hear a rumor that things are going to start to open up inside for restaurants on June 15th. I think that's a rumor I've heard, and I think it's not going to be full capacity, but I did want to throw that in there. Okay. I don't know if it's the true thing but I've heard it from a few different sources of mine. So we'll see if that
they were moving
happens.
Towards that.
Yeah. Again, listen to us right here on 95.3 FM WMNH every Thursday at 6 p.m. with replays of the show on Saturday and Sunday mornings and 11 and Tuesdays at 6 p.m. throughout the week wherever you listen to your podcasts. Thanks for listening. Until next time, live and be happy.